This is the Ankara fabric I'm going to be using. This is 2 yards, my 2 yards lining, my elastic, and my daughter's strip interface. Here I'll be marking my starting line as well as my shoulder line. And for my vertical measurement, I'll mark my bust point, my under the bust point, my waist point, and my hip point. After that, I'm just going to be going ahead to put all these points into a square form. Here I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2, mark my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches here. I'm going to be making a line this way. This line here is my chest line. I'll connect it this other way. I'll come here, mark 3 by 3 as my neckline. Here I'll come down by 1 inch. Now I'll connect it to this point, which is my shoulder slope. Here I'll divide my armhole by 2. Mark it here, come in by half an inch and make a connection this way. Here mark my back circumference divided by 4. I'll go ahead and connect it that other way. Here I'll mark my nape to nape divided by 2. I'll come over here and also mark it here. So my nape to nape divided by 2 was 3 inches. Here is my bust line, my under the bust line, my waistline, and my hip line. I'll go ahead and come to my under the bust line, mark 1 inch on this side, 1.5 inch on this other side. Here I also mark 1 inch here, 1.5 on this other side. I'll go ahead and connect it vertically this way. I'll come here and step down by half an inch, go ahead and connect it this way to that half an inch, and then this other way to that half an inch. Over here, because it's an off the shoulder bustier, we have to be taking that part of the shoulder we are going to be taking off. It depends on what you want, okay? If you want to take away 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches, depending on the amount of shoulder and chest you want to expose, that will influence the number you should go for. But for me, in looking at the style we got our inspiration from, I'm going to be taking off 5 inches as off my shoulder. From my shoulder line this way, I'll just step down by 5 inches and I'll make a straight line this way. Once we are done marking our off the shoulder line, from here let's come in by 2 inches. After that, we just make a line this way. Then from that line, we will come out by 1 inches and connect it to this other way. So this is our upper bust tightening. Here I'll step down by 1.5 inches and connect it to this way. Over here, you can be creative. If you want a sweetheart neckline, wherever you want, just work your way around it. This line here is now a chest line, just as I said. I'll go ahead and divide my chest circumference divided by 4. I'll mark it to this point. When I get to where the dot is, I'll stop, pick it again, and continue the marking from where the other dot leg started. I'll make sure I mark wherever I'm getting this way, whether it is going outside or inside, wherever it ends, mark it there. This way mine was exceeding our armhole line, so I'll have to go ahead and redraw my armhole. Okay, so this is how it was done. So we don't need this part any longer. Here, let's mark our waist circumference divided by 4. We make sure we add the dots intake at this side. We come to the hip line, mark our hip circumference divided by 4. Also add that intake as well. All we need to do now is to go ahead and connect our points. Here it's very pointy. Let's go ahead and blend it. Over here we step down by 2 inches. Come here and mark half an inch from the bust point and mark it. This is our bust dot. Since it's our waistline, we step down by 3 inches and make a curve to this point to get our basque effect. Over here, I'll just go ahead and extend that line. That way, we are now coming to draft the back. Once we are done extending our chest line, let's go ahead and divide it this way to now work on the back pattern. At the front pattern paper, this is our waistline, which will now correspond to the back waistline being here. But because of this bust dot, if we go ahead and use the same waistline, at the end of the day you will realize the back is longer than the front, which we don't want. So we need to close up the bust dot, and in closing up the bust dot, we just need to cut it through this way. You don't need to cut it through to the bust point. Cut it close but not through. Once we are done closing up our bust dot, we now have to go ahead and blend everything. Once everything is done, you can see that the lines are realigning at the back area as well. So this is our chest line, our bust line, our under the bust line, and our waistline being this. Okay, can you see it's not really aligned? At first, where we marked as our waistline is no longer a waistline after closing up the bust dart. Here on the front piece, at the waistline, we came down by 3 inches to create our bust effect. So let's come to the back and also measure from the new waistline 3 inches downwards to now create our bust effect. So this is going to be our hip line or our half length or our back line, which means we are not going to be using this line again. We don't need this line again, okay? Once that was done, I'll come here, mark my nape to nape divided by 2, which was 3. I'll go ahead and rule a straight line through. Come to my waistline, mark 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this other side. After that, I'll go ahead and connect it to the hip. This way, that way, and this other way. Once that was done, I'll go ahead and divide my chest circumference divided by 4. Come, mark it at the chest line. I'll move to my waistline, mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Add my dart intake, which was 2 inches. I'll come to my hip line and divide my hip circumference divided by 4. Once I was done with that, I'll go ahead and connect all the points. But at this part, I'll use my armhole curve to draw out the armhole. All we need to do now is to go ahead and cut. At this point, I don't want the center back to be very straight. I want it to be a bit curvy. Make a little curve this way and cut it out. Please, if you want yours to be straight, that is cool, but I don't want mine to be straight. Once that was done, all I need to do now is to go ahead and cut every other thing out. So we're going to be cutting it here. Please don't throw away your yoke. Here I'll go ahead and realign the 2 pieces this way to redraw my back line. For the back line, if you go ahead and cut it straight away, you will find out one is longer than the other and there will be a lot of discrepancies right there. Here is our center back, our side back, our center front, and our side front. For the sleeve, I'm going to be using this pattern paper. Yeah, this was why I said don't throw away this part of your pattern paper. I'm going to be measuring what we have there. That was basically 5 inches, right? Yeah. So that was 5 inches. Because we're going to be inserting an elastic at this part of our sleeve. So just go ahead and multiply that 5 inches by 2, which will now be 10 inches. The width of our sleeve is going to be 10 inches. But remember, it's on fold. It means when we open everything up, it's going to be 20 inches. Because it's an off-the-shoulder dress and that 5 inches we took out, we're also going to be taking it out from the length of the sleeve. So I'll make sure I place my tape rule, taking away the 5 inches, and I'll go ahead and mark the length of my sleeve. After marking the length of my sleeve, I'll be adding 1 inch for the folding allowance. I'll go ahead and cut this out. Over here, I'll just bring one of the piece, whether back or front piece. I'll bring one of the piece, place it this way and trace out that armhole as well. I don't want that side of the sleeve to be pointy and straightforward, so I also go ahead and give it curves. Once I was done curving it out this way, I'll go ahead and divide the hem of the sleeve into 1.5 inches. Spread it this way. Draw straight line through to the top. Go ahead and spread it on my fabric piece this way. So here, if you want it to be very full, you could just spread it a bit small, but I think this was okay. I was using 2 yards of fabric. I wanted to make sure it was enough for that, so I went ahead and I cut that out.